Everybody experiences painful emotion. From grief to anger to disappointment, emotional suffering is universal and unavoidable. But how people respond to emotional suffering varies dramatically. So in this video, I want to dive into the 4 habits that people who have thick skin have. Most people try to avoid painful emotion by running away from them, problem solving, or conjuring up distractions to deal with them. But here's the thing with that. No matter how painful your emotions feel, there are no dangers within those emotions or problems to be fixed. It's a weird concept to wrap your head around. When you think about it, no matter how sad you feel, the sadness itself isn't dangerous. No matter how frustrated you are, the feeling of frustration isn't dangerous. No matter how ashamed you feel, the shame isn't going to hurt you. It's only when you act on these feelings that they become dangerous. Of course, it's natural to want to get away from painful feelings. But here's the problem with that. When you get into the habit of running away from your problems and running away from your feelings, you start training your brain to fear those feelings. So next time you have some painful emotion, for instance, take guilt, pops up out of nowhere, you're gonna feel both guilty and afraid. When you combine those painful feelings, you don't just feel a little worse, you feel a lot worse. If you want to become more emotionally resilient and not kind of fall apart under the stress of being afraid and you need to get on with your life, you need to become more emotionally tolerant. Simply put, emotional tolerance means that you practice feeling a painful emotion. It's not nice, and if it was easy, everyone would have thick skin. But you can't do anything about that painful emotion. And what I mean by that is you can't do the running away, you can't conjure up a distraction. You have to sit with your emotions and you have to deal with them. So the next time you feel anxious, let's say you're going for a job interview, instead of taking out your phone and scrolling through your social media feed, try sitting with the emotion, dealing with the emotion, thinking about why you're feeling anxious. Acknowledging that it's painful, but not dangerous. The next time you feel angry, instead of lashing out on the nearest thing, person, I don't know, pillow that you find, notice your anger and feel the anger, but don't act on the anger. The next time you feel sad or disappointed, rather than, again, hopping on your phone to distract yourself or losing yourself in a book, try sitting with the sadness and noticing what it's like. We don't truly understand these feelings when they're in us. We're just taught to be afraid of them and run away from them as fast as possible. But at the end of the day, the most important idea to remember is emotional resilience comes down to acting on your values rather than your feelings, even when those feelings are painful. But this isn't something you can just do once and think that you are going to become a mastermind or a genius in emotional resilience. No. It's a skill that needs training and practice, just like any other muscle in the body. The brain, the chest, the legs. I'm still in the process of training my chest and legs. So make a point in your daily life to deal with a little bit of emotional resilience. Try, if you feel a hot flash coming on and a bit of anger, try and sit with that anger. Don't act on that anger. If you're feeling sad or slightly depressed in the day, it could be the weather. Try and sit with that sadness and understand why you're feeling sad. Not lose yourself in a phone to try and top up your happiness levels. Your emotional resilience will grow and your confidence will grow. Let it go. Just accept reality for what it is in those situations. Do not force it. It's human nature to want to avoid pain, including emotional pain. Wouldn't you prefer to be happy rather than sad? Many people fall into the trap of the illusion of control as a defense mechanism to their own helplessness. As much as we dislike painful feelings like anxiety, grief, shame, frustration, there's tons of others. There's one emotion that most of us really dislike. And we'll go to some pretty extreme lengths to avoid feeling it. And that is helplessness. We as humans, we seem to be control freaks at heart. We're experts at identifying problems, developing creative solutions, and executing those solutions tirelessly. From building dams to have electricity, to developing vaccines, to sending rovers to Mars. Our ability to exert our control over our environment is perhaps the defining characteristic of our species. But while exerting control is helpful, it occasionally backfires and makes things worse. So much worse. There's a certain class of things that when you try too much, they usually end up not working. Take, for instance, sleep. When you force yourself to go to sleep, the likelihood of you falling asleep is very slim. While if you were to kind of be reading on the sofa on a cold winter's afternoon with a book in your hand underneath a duvet, you're more likely to fall asleep. The more general point here is that you need to be careful about which problems in life you benefit from or worsen your current situation if you exert control over them. Emotionally resilient people intuitively understand this principle and are quite good at avoiding the temptation to control things they can't control. Other people, for instance, especially when it comes to the people we love. It's tempting to try and influence them to do the right thing, to do what we think is right. But more often than not, trying to control or manipulate others, even for a noble purpose, usually ends up with bad blood being formed and does nothing but stress you out and cause you to go into overdrive thinking, what the hell is this person doing, and not concentrating on your own actions. Your thoughts, well, guess what? There's no way in hell you're controlling your thoughts, unless you decide to do some meditation. The majority of the activity that's happening in our mind is outside of our current awareness and control. You can cultivate that awareness, but that's a whole separate video entirely. Your emotions. Try this for me. Try in this moment to make yourself happier. I'll wait. No luck? Well, that's because our minds don't have happiness dials that you can just turn up and down. It's not like the thermostat in a house. So instead of wasting valuable attention trying to control your emotions, why don't you exert some of that energy into your attention and your behavior towards yourself and other people? Emotionally resilient people don't worry in the fact about controlling their emotions, controlling their mind, controlling other people. They understand that those things are or will waste too much of their energy trying to control. They accept that and they tolerate helplessness when necessary and focus their actions on their own behavior. Self-compassion is a simple idea. When times are tough, treat yourself as you would a good friend. Most of us have this strange habit where we are overly critical of ourselves whenever we make a mistake. But yet, when a friend makes a mistake, or a sibling or a parent, we find the compassion to be able to forgive them for it, but yet we don't do it for ourselves. It's really odd. It's crazy how the human mind works. Unfortunately, growing up, most of us have learned that the secret to success and happiness is to be tough on yourself. Like a parent who consistently shouts or gets angry with their child or is tough on their child by yelling, thinks it's a good idea to do that because it will toughen them up. We mistakenly believe that to be the truth, but the approach is flawed. Most people succeed despite their self-judgment, not because of it. In fact, most people could be far more effective if they didn't beat themselves up about every little small thing, like why you were late to work or I didn't go to the gym today. You end up just putting up more stress on yourself for no apparent reason. Self-judgment only compounds difficult emotions, and the frequency is likely to lead to spirals of bad moods and painful feelings that we don't really need in our lives. It's not useful in any way. If you want to be more emotionally resilient, practice self-compassion. How to do that is a little difficult. I think the best way to do it is, as I explained at the beginning, try and treat yourself as you would a very good friend or someone that you're quite close to whenever they make a mistake. Try and put that kind of feeling onto yourself and treat yourself with that same love. You will benefit from it. I think the best way to put it is to love yourself like you love your friends. The trouble with expectations is that we assume they're doing one thing when in fact they could be doing another. People assume that expectations are the way to foster growth and achievement. Having high quality expectations for our coworkers, encourage them to work hard and achieve more. Having expectations for our friends encourages them to be better in whatever they're doing. And of course, high expectations on ourselves are supposedly supposed to increase our chances of success. But here's the problem. When we set high expectations, we sort of soothe our own anxieties and insecurities. Most people hate uncertainty, and it seems like we set expectations as a way of soothing that. You create an expectation in your head and then you believe that to be true, and you don't have to worry about the uncertainty of if it wasn't. It makes you feel a little more in control of the out of control environment that you're in. Part of becoming a more emotionally resilient is seeing the changes in your life as opportunities for growth, for excitement, and for new experiences. Get into the habit of clarifying your expectations, whether it's a daily journal or a weekly smart check-in with yourself. Making sure that they aren't too unrealistic is key, because you don't want to be, as my dad likes to put it, sipping on your own Kool-Aid. As I mentioned in the beginning, the process of becoming more emotionally resilient is something that does not happen overnight. It's a long-term process. You have to remember that this is a muscle we haven't consciously exercised, let alone knew existed. So take the time each day to seek the small wins in the hardest moments, whether they're from internal or external factors. As you consciously rack and stack them, you'll see the growth in your resilience. Hopefully there are some actionable tips for you in this video. Uncle V has been out in full force. As always, it's been a pleasure, and I'll see you in the next one.